Well, hi, my name is Kaitlyn McNutt. I'm a freshman, and this is my first year in the Humanities Academy. So, to start off the year, my class was split into groups of freshmen and sophomores. As freshmen, our goal was to try and figure out how we can improve virtual learning for students at Morrison High School. So, at the beginning of the school year, there were students in cohort A, students in cohort B, and students in a virtual cohort. And we found that students in these different cohorts didn't really know each other due to the fact that they did not get to be in class with each other. So, we wanted to try and figure out ways for virtual and in-person groups to connect. We found that the easiest way to do this was through the icebreakers at the beginning of every class. So to try and get these ideas implemented into classes, we chose to email teachers. All of these emails just basically said that we were in the Humanities Academy and that we want to improve the lack of connection between peers and teachers amidst the hybrid school format. They also all included a link to a survey. This survey basically just gave information that was also included in the email about why I want to do this, and it had some questions as well as answers about why we should do this and when this would happen. It gave teachers a question that said, would you be open to participating in this, as well as gave them the option to give some feedback if there was anything they wanted to change, add, or any advice they wanted to give. So, I'm sorry about that. And so this ended up being a success because many teachers ended up implementing icebreakers at the beginning of class for the next couple weeks. Personally, many of my teachers did, and it really helped because in the first marking period, I was all virtual and I didn't know many students, but the icebreakers really helped me connect and helped me talk to other people about things outside of schoolwork. So next, going into the second marking period, we were to make our own projects. So my goal for my project was to find something that interested me, something that benefited others, and something that improved my own knowledge or skills. So I wanted to do something that I was already connected with, and I found this through North Star Pet Rescue, which is an animal rescue that I foster dogs for. So I got the idea from my mom when she thought that it would be smart to print dogs onto t-shirts and then to sell these shirts to help get a dog adopted as well as bring in revenue to the shelter. And so this checked 2/3 of my requirements for my goal, which was that it benefited someone else and that it helped me learn a new skill. So how to make these shirts. So my plan going to it was to not just print photos of dogs on shirts, but to actually cartoon them and then print those out onto shirts. So in order to cartoon them, I used an app called Procreate, and I used a method where you upload photos to the app and then you just trace over it. So a big thing of learning for this was that I had to learn how to use Procreate and had to learn different things such as color selector and how to use different layers. And then I also had to learn how to make how I would end up making these t-shirts in the end and what the most cost-efficient way would be. A big issue was that the drawing was actually very, very time-consuming. I started out by just drawing a photo of my friend, and I chose this photo because it had a lot of different shadows, but this took me many, many hours, and I did not make much progress, as you can see. And so I ended up losing a lot of motivation, and it eventually caused me to switch projects just because if I found that I was no longer interested in it, and I never was really to begin with. So why I chose to switch projects, like I just said, it didn't really interest me. I had rushed into this project at the beginning of the school year because I was concerned that I wouldn't have enough time, and many of my peers had already chosen their projects and were already getting started, and I didn't want to be left behind. And then the lack of interest that I faced with this project caused me to procrastinate a lot and caused me to make very little progress in my first marking period of working on our own projects. So going to third marking period, I ended up switching my project. And so when brainstorming again, I wanted to find something interesting me that benefited others and that improved my knowledge or skills. And so the first question I asked was, can I use baking to help others besides myself de-stress? I found that baking would be a great thing to start with my project, and I decided that a good base project would be to bake and then use that and give those baked goods to other people to spread positivity, such as sad times of the pandemic. I was also able to talk to some of my friends and some of my classmates, and they all agreed that the pandemic had been very stressful on them, and so I thought this would be a good way to help everyone just de-stress. Another question I asked was, how can I motivate the people who receive my baked items to continue to spread positivity? Well, my thought with this was I could include a little note to each thing I share, and that would just ask them to take the good deed I've given them and to do one more good deed for someone else. And my third question was, how can I make this transaction COVID safe, as well as how can I make it allergy safe? For how can I make it COVID safe, I disinfected my whole kitchen and all the materials I would be using beforehand, and I wore a mask while I was baking to make sure everything stayed safe. How can I make it allergy safe? I made sure the person who received my baked goods wasn't allergic to anything that I was baking, as well as I made sure that if they were allergic to anything, that the food was not in my house at all, and that it would not come into contact with any materials I was using or anything I was baking. Continuing my second response, this is the note I chose to add. I wanted to keep it simple. After many classes of brainstorming and making fancy notes, I found this one worked the best. This was just cut out and taped on to the thing, and it was able to achieve my second question. So, feedback night. So, I heard many new ideas at feedback night that altered my plan, but I was unable to do many of them due to the cost. One big one that I had chosen was I wanted to, instead of just baking things, giving them to people, I wanted to make a YouTube channel where I bake things, and then also make little kits where I give to people so that they can follow along to my tutorials and bake things themselves. I really like this idea because it not only helped me de-stress, but it helped other people de-stress through baking. So I would not only be spreading positivity, but also helping others de-stress. But like I said, this would cost too much just from buying too many materials that I would be unable to fund. But the good news is that through feedback night, I found a new way to keep things COVID safe, which was that after I delivered the baked goods, I recommended instructions on how to make sure people receiving the food were able to keep the transaction COVID safe on their end by just sanitizing it when they got home. So the first thing I made was chocolate chip cookies. I found they were simple and helped me learn step by step. They were also requested by a friend. So a big thing about these were that I overcooked them a little, but it did help me improve open-mindedness because it helped me understand that even though these cookies didn't turn out exactly how I wanted them to, I would just need to accept that and understand that they're still great cookies and they will still serve their purpose. So yeah. Then next I chose to make brownies. I found they were a step up from cookies, and big issue I faced was I had to buy the wrong box mix because they didn't have brownie mix, and so I bought peanut butter cookie brownie, and I had to buy 2 of them to make sure I had enough brownie mix. This brought up another issue, which was that 2 bags of brownie mix from this was actually too much, and when I went to bake it, the outside's baked but the inside didn't. And then I was able to be flexible with this, and I thought about taking it out, and I let it sit for a little while, and even though this wasn't how it was supposed to go, after I let it sit, when I put it back in the oven, it ended up baking perfectly. And then the third thing I made was chocolate chip cupcakes. These were still relatively easy, but they required more ingredients, and there's something I've never made before. And also I had to experiment a little because even though the box included baking instructions for the cupcakes, it did not include how much I was supposed to fill it or different things such as that. So I had to experiment with that, and after much trial and error, I was able to make some very nice cupcakes. And then with attitudes and actions, so attitudes I think I worked on open-mindedness. I really think that with feedback night, as well as switching projects, I was able to be very open-minded and very considerate what other people's opinions and what the feedback that other people gave me. Also, with the cookies, I was able to understand that even though they went wrong, it was still they still worked, and that even though it went against my plan, it would still work out in the end. And then for intentionality, I really think I improved this after switching projects because I had to understand that going into my first project, my intentions weren't in the right place. I had rushed it. And so instead of having a project that I was satisfied with, I ended up with something I was just working my way through and wasn't actually interested in. And so I really think that helped my intentionality. For flexibility, this was really with the brownies, just being able to be flexible and work around the problems I faced. And then that really helped. And I also noticed that this applied to my real life because I've noticed I've become more flexible and have been more open to change as after this project. And then also with patience, I really just had to understand that things will go wrong and I will lose time. And I just had to understand that even though I might run out of time, might not be able to do the work I want, I should be patient and understand that there will be delay or I may face some trouble. And that also, like I said, helped me in real life. I've just been more patient with especially my teachers and just understanding that sometimes things go wrong. And so, yeah. And then finally, going forward, I want to continue this project throughout the summer, as well as move on to harder recipes and move away from box mix. And then I'll also continue to improve the habits of mind I mentioned here, as well as other habits of mind that I need to work on. But overall, I would say this project was a success due to the people I helped and the positivity I spread. That is all. Thank you.